So of course, if you've been physically, mentally, emotionally abused, traumatized, there's got to be a little bit more compassion with the process, a little bit more time, a little bit more love and tender care given to the process. But remember, the process still remains the same. Work through the challenges of being on your own. Work through the challenges of saying no to always being with people and saying yes to being with yourself without any distractions. Work through those challenges that you'll get in the form of boredom and loneliness and irritability and restlessness and just your ego giving you whatever excuses to stop you from spending that time with yourself. That's still, no matter how traumatized your life has been, that's still the process to recovery. Once you get through that and you're working through those thoughts of being lonely, because they're only thoughts, they're definitely not anything real, they're not tangible, then you get to a state where you'll connect with your emotions. And then when you connect with your emotions, you will have memories of your past come up. You'll have things, flashbacks, you'll have things come up naturally. That's all emotions are. They're tied to memories. And if they're coming up naturally, if they're giving you anxiety, depression or anything, they want to communicate with you. They want to be felt. They want to be expressed. They want to be let out, right? So the more traumatic your life has been, obviously that trauma is going to come back. The fear is of re-traumatizing. The fear is of bringing this stuff back, and you're just going to relapse into whatever compulsions, OCD and medications and all this stuff. People are scared of relapsing. Let me just bring to your attention that you have to step backwards to step forward. It's one step back, two step forwards, right? If you don't relapse on your own, you're going to relapse in life. Okay, you're going to keep attracting the pain, the abuse, the traumatic experiences that you lived when you were younger. They will just keep rewriting themselves. The history repeats itself. That goes from generation to generation, but then that also goes in your own life. Your life will keep recreating itself. You will get mentally, physically, emotionally abused by other people if you don't take responsibility and go and rectify this stuff on your own. So if you don't want to spend time on your own to feel these emotions because they're painful, and you don't want to relive them, you don't want to be re-traumatized, you don't want to relapse, you're only going to be re-traumatized, you're only going to relapse when someone else comes and mirrors back to you and triggers you in the form of another kind of mental attack or whatever, domestic violence reinvigorating itself with another person. It's not right. I'm not going to stand here and sit here and to tell you that it's okay, don't worry about it, forget about it. No, of course, any kind of abuse and trauma is not right. But it's also not right avoiding you purposefully reliving this stuff so that it stops having a hold on you, instead of avoiding it and just letting life attract more of it into your life. It's best to get this stuff on your own and not wait for the universal uppercut that I speak of. You will attract more pain, more anguish. The same pain, the same anguish will just keep coming back to remind you that you have unresolved issues in the form of anger, frustration, sadness, grief, pain, hurt. If it's there and you don't relive it and whatever you want to call it, that you're avoiding, whatever excuse you're using to avoid it, if you don't go back into it, if you don't spend the time to feel it, it's going to happen in real life, which is more painful, more than it's actually tangible. If someone's actually re-traumatizing you mentally, physically, emotionally, that's more painful than you temporarily relapsing into the memories, into the pain, into the suffering, where you can choose the environment. You can also choose to stop remembering the memory and go for a walk and take yourself and go get a nice smoothie and just lay in the sun, or go for a walk out into the woods. You can choose how traumatic you want to go, how deep you want to go into it. And then you can live to fight another day and come back and do it again. And each time you revisit the memory, each time you revisit the pain, the suffering, it gets easier and easier to deal with. So yes, it feels like you're going backwards, you're relapsing. You're going to fall back into it, or it's just fear. It's excuses and fear for preventing you from going into it. And again, it's not right that somebody abused you when you were younger in any shape or form. Absolutely not. But again, as hard as this is to hear, if you don't take ownership, if you don't take responsibility and go upon yourself to nurture and to comfort and to give love to your younger version of yourself, your younger self that actually had to live through it. You at one stage had to live through it, and that part of you is still part of you. And you're older now. You can forget about it. But you can't forget about it without expressing the emotions that were there when it first happened. The fear, the fright, the shame, whatever is associated with the memory. You can't forget about it unless you express. You sit in the fire of those emotions. You literally have to feel and sit in those emotions and let them come out. And you yell and you scream and you cry and you carry on however you want to carry on. And if it feels like you're relapsing, if it feels like you're going backwards, accept it and know that you're going backwards for a reason. You're going backwards for a purpose. Because you can only go back so much until you be like, okay, this happened. It wasn't the greatest thing to happen to me, but it's happened. But I know I'm strong. I know I'm brave because I'm still standing. I still have an opportunity to turn this thing around. I still get to enjoy the sunlight. I still get to smell the roses. I can turn this thing around. I can let this thing I can tell this thing to go away. I have the utmost strength and courage to feel this thing, and not only just feel it, but to comfort this thing that hurts oh so much. I can comfort this thing to the fact where it doesn't affect me anymore. And when I think of it again, it's just a memory that has no emotional ties to me anymore. So that life today doesn't trigger me in any way, doesn't set me off in any way. I'm not going to attract any more pain because I've felt it, I've expressed it, and I've released it. I've been brave enough to do that. I've been proactive enough to set the time to do that. I was courageous enough to be on my own, to be my own therapist, to feel my own emotions, to talk about my own problems with myself. I love myself, and I know myself by doing so. Doesn't matter what happened to you when you were younger. you have the opportunity, God-given right, to start afresh, to start new, to be the most grateful person to be alive, to be still standing, to come full circle, to detach from what happened to you in the past and to recreate something beautiful in the mirror when you look into your eyes and see that there's no more pain and suffering because you've felt it. You've given love to it. You've made space for it. You haven't medicated. You haven't addicted to anything else to cover it up. You haven't run away from it. You were brave enough, strong enough, courageous enough to relive it so that that younger version of yourself knows that you're there with it, supporting it, knowing that it went through it and now you're going through it with her or him. And that there's no need to be scared anymore because you're there together. They don't feel abandoned. They don't feel lonely. They don't feel like they have to deal with the fear on their own because you've gone back in time, mentally, emotionally, to support your younger version. To think that you would neglect your younger self, all the trauma that it went through, just because you don't want to relapse or you don't want to relive these painful memories because you're going to re-traumatize yourself. Well, what about that younger version of yourself that doesn't get a choice? It lived it. It's in the past. It happened. Your younger self already went through it. Are you just going to neglect that younger person? Your younger person? Your younger self? You're going to neglect that person? Because you don't want to relive it? You don't want to re-traumatize? You don't want to relapse? Come on. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. And any psychiatrist, psychologist, or any therapist that says you don't want to re-traumatize and relapse because you've got a psychosis or you've got suicidal tendencies or you're on the brink of death. They say that because they're scared. They don't know how to deal with it. They don't want you to relapse because if you relapse in front of them, they will go into a big panic. That's why they tell you that. I'm telling you wholeheartedly that you're better to relapse on your own terms than to relapse on life's terms, which can come in very funky colours. Colours that you're not prepared for it sometimes, and colours that will take you to the brink of death. It's best to do this work on your own. It's best to build the courage and the strength and the bravery that comes with dealing with it on your own. That's all I've got to say.